Welcome to the high sugar diet. Now in this video I'm going to explain what the high sugar diet is, because I see a lot of confusion usually around, well, where do you get your certain macronutrients from and when do you add them in your day? And I think when people see high sugar diet, you maybe are thinking just literally white table sugar, and maybe some people on the internet are saying just to eat white table sugar. Well, I have some props around me. I'm going to show you what foods I recommend on the high sugar diet and what an actual high sugar diet is that I've eaten for years. So firstly, the way that I recommend to eat, I've eaten for years, and as you can see, trying to flex to show you that I look like this, you know, every day of the year, from Christmas through to the summer now. So it's nice and hot in the summer, and I always have my beach body ready. So as you can see, lean like this all year. And I'm going to show you what I eat generally, generally every day, every week, on a meal plan that I would recommend. So firstly, this is what I had for breakfast. So I had a watermelon and a mango, and I had about maybe 500 milliliters of orange juice. So I'll just put that down there. So what is the high sugar diet? Well, it's this. So the high sugar diet is low in fat, low in protein, and high in sugar. So all carbohydrates are sugar, so they all break down to produce glucose. And if we're talking sucrose, that also produces fructose when it's broken down. So the first thing that I see people get confused about, or misconception or misunderstanding about the high sugar diet, is that it's not just eating table sugar, okay? So this is the misunderstanding I think I hear when people say, well, where do you get your fat from, your other micronutrients during the day? Well, this video is going to explain it so that you're not confused. I'm getting bitten by little bugs. So that goes, this is the opposite, okay? This is a plant-based vegan high sugar diet for performance and health, and this is the standard model, okay? So this is HSD versus SAD. So SAD stands for Standard American Diet, or Standard Western Diet, which is high in fat, high in protein, high in animal protein. And why have I got heart disease written there? Well, the reason why I've got heart disease written down there is because in this model, so this is the current model of the Western world, so for millions of people, and if you're watching this video, you probably know someone, or maybe you're not in the best of health yourself, who suffers from heart disease. So just to lay the groundwork here, this high sugar diet is for losing weight, like I'm lean, and other positive health consequences such as reversing type 2 diabetes. This leads to bad health, ill health, disease, and most people don't eat like this plant-based vegan high sugar diet, but most people eat the standard model, standard American diet, which is bacon, eggs, fish, milk, steak, these sorts of foods, and lots of them. And therefore, when maybe you see, and I get comments asking about, well, where do you get your healthy fats, for example? And you have to understand, this channel is also, I explain how the world works as well. And what I mean by that is, for example, healthy fats. Healthy fats is a marketing term just like the Mediterranean diet is a marketing term. So whenever the public maybe gets concerned about, oh, my health is bad, I need to improve my health, and that means profits might decrease for certain companies. All the marketing department does is puts healthy in front of fat, and that's it. That's as easy as it is. So we live in an extreme society, and when I mean extreme, I mean the standard model is millions of people are sick, obese, over fat, and sick, and dying from this standard model, such as obesity, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and so many more, high blood pressure. And there's millions and millions and millions of people like that, like this. So firstly, I think when you see me suggesting, well, low fat and low protein is the way to go, and you say, well, where do you get your fats? The leading cause of death in the Western world is heart disease. So most people die from excess dietary fat. So that's an extreme way, and most people live like that. So when you see the answer, which is through diet therapy, so your diet is the most powerful way to improve your health, which says you should stop dying of heart disease. Okay, so healthy fats cause lots of people to die from heart disease, and low fat causes people to worry that they're not going to get enough fat. So most people are fat and overweight and then worry about their change. Okay, so the reason why this is scary is because everyone defends their way of life. So if they do something and everyone else is doing it, then that makes, for most people, they think if everyone's doing something, that makes it right. Okay, so if most people are getting fat and sick and everyone else is doing that, then yeah, it can be scary to change. So I'm setting out the groundwork here just to explain, before you start typing in the comments about fat and protein. Okay, so this is the extreme. So the standard model is the extreme. This is the healthy way. So this is not the extreme, and this is healthy, because if that was the case, we wouldn't see the horrific health statistics that we see now, where most people are dying of heart disease from excess fat. This is the healthy way to go. For example, there are millions or billions of people on the planet that live not vegan, but they almost live this high sugar diet, or essentially they do live the high sugar diet. For example, in rural China or other Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, where they live on a staple of white rice, and they have a heart disease. The statistic is that it affects about 1.5% of the population, versus 50% on the standard American diet. Okay, and we live in a world now, at least in the West, where you can go to a supermarket and eat whatever you want. So there's never been a vegan population, but there's never been a population with a supermarket in history until now. So that's why I think, just laying out the groundwork, why you should choose the low fat, low protein, high sugar diet, okay, over the standard model. And there's also never been a reported case in protein deficiency as long as you are eating foods. Okay, so there isn't even a medical term for protein deficiency in medical literature, and the only terms we see are for those people who are starving to death, like kwashiorkor, or I can't remember, kwashiorkor I think it's called, and there's other terms, but these are just for people who are starving, not specifically protein deficient. They're just deficient in eating enough food to survive. So I hope you're enjoying the video, and like and subscribe, and yeah, if you defend your way of life, which is what you're probably used to every day, it can be scary to change. And this is why I'm making this videos, because I'm here to help and give a helping hand to show, you know, someone who's already gone through it and has been doing it for years, it's okay. You can take that leap of faith, because I'm here. I can help you if you want it. But as I say, when we make changes in life, it's up to you. You have to be the one that wants to change, okay? So there's enough fat, for example, in white rice has omega fats in it, and yeah, the brain, the body's nerves need fat for insulating the nerves, for example. And yeah, it's not, what I'm going to show you is not a zero fat diet, okay? The only way to eat a zero fat diet is to literally eat white table sugar, which is not the high sugar diet. That's just, if you're seeing that on the internet, that's just another eating disorder fad diet, okay? So just eating white table sugar is not the high sugar diet. That's altogether something different. So this is how you eat food to improve your health and lose weight. So now that I've got the groundwork out the way, and you can see I'm always lean, and maybe you're starting to understand what I'm getting at, I'm going to show you now the foods that I recommend on a high sugar diet, and the confusion will be gone, hopefully. So firstly, one of the main staples I recommend on the high sugar diet is rice. Okay, white rice, and this is basmati rice, white basmati rice from Asia, so Asian white rice. So I've just got the bag because this is a 10 kilo bag, so it would be too heavy. So there's the first, one of the first main staples is white rice, okay? And in terms of the macronutrient breakdown here, so we have per 100 grams, 84 grams of carbohydrate, and of which protein, you know, I would say white rice is probably a very good source of protein. And in fact, in terms of you talking about lean protein, well, you're getting 8.1 grams of protein per 100 grams for less than, or about half on this type of rice, half a gram of fat. So per 100 grams, half a gram of fat, 84 grams of carbohydrate, and all carbohydrate is protein, all carbohydrate is sugar, so it's high sugar, and 8.1 grams of protein. So in terms of getting your protein, where do you get your protein from? Well, I would say rice is the best, because as I say, I recommend a low protein. This is a low protein, low fat. So you don't need to get any more protein once you've had, for example, your bowl of white rice for tea. But I'll get onto more detail about protein, and I've got other videos on the channel explaining the myths around why you need protein, or the marketing saying you need all this protein. The next major staple is fruits. Okay, so I've got a bunch of bananas here, and I would say, for example, if you were going to have breakfast, a fruit breakfast, I've already shown you I've had a watermelon and a mango and some orange juice. I would say aim for having the most sugary fruit that you can get. So for bananas, eat them when they're ripe, and when they're ripe, it's when they're yellow, when they're starting to turn brown and they have spots and they're really soft, and they're turning from starchy into sugars, so fructose. And this, so we've got some fair trade ones here. I would say if you're going to have bananas, for example, for breakfast, to get enough sugar to power you through your day, you need to eat a lot. So I would say just for breakfast alone, I mean this is a bunch of 6, I would say you probably want to have, if you make a smoothie, I would add at least 10 or a dozen to a smoothie with water and some table sugar. So that's my next major staple here. So here is the white table sugar. Okay, so this is sucrose. Okay, this white table sugar here, this is sucrose, which is a 50-50 mix of fructose and glucose. So rice has a lot of glucose in terms of its starch, and this is a simple sugar, inverted commas, which is sucrose, which is 50-50 mix of fructose and glucose. And in fruit, there's still glucose and fructose, but there's a lot of fructose in fruit to the overall amount of sugar that's in it. But you have to understand, this comes back with other things like there's fiber in it. So I recommend to get enough sugar on a high sugar diet during your day. I would add white table sugar to your diet on top of the base of these foods like rice and fruit. So as you can see already, it's not a restrictive diet in terms of macronutrients where you're deliberately trying to, I would say, in an unhealthy way, restrict certain macronutrients. So in terms of the macronutrient breakdown of this diet, so fat and protein and sugar, naturally these foods like rice and fruit, and I'll show you some more now, but just to explain the macronutrient breakdown of this diet, this lifestyle, okay? So this isn't a diet as in you go on it for 6 weeks or 6 months and then you go back to whatever you were doing before. When I say diet, I'm just meaning the foods that I refer to. So this isn't something you just do and then you go back to your old lifestyle, which is unhealthy and destroying your health. I help people to lose weight and regain their health for life through the lifestyle that I recommend, which is based on eating these foods. So it's not a diet. I just say diet in referring to the foods that I'm talking about, okay? Just to explain that one. So this is not dieting, this is a lifestyle, a high sugar lifestyle, which gives you the energy in life to start living and stop surviving. So you go from survival mode to living mode, so you can live life to the full. So high sugar performance in your job, performance in your life, performance in, I recommend cycling on top of this, because cycling gives you the freedom and adventure unparalleled to anything in life. So not the car or drugs, okay? These don't give you freedom, whereas a high sugar diet with cycling allows you to get out into the world and literally be free. And when you have lots of energy, you can ride as far as you want, as fast as you want, and still feel good every day. So these foods are naturally low in fat, and when I say they're low in fat, they're not missing, they don't miss the healthy fats, or these are not unnatural ways to eat, as in because you're actually restricting. Well, I recommend you eat as much of the rice and fruit and sugar as you want to feel full every day. So for example, I might recommend 3 meals a day of white rice with a spicy tomato sauce. You eat as much of that each meal to feel full. So on a day that I would do that, I might eat 700 grams each time of white rice, or I might have some soy sauce on top of my white rice, and then I might supplement that on top with as much fruit as I want between breakfast, lunch and tea. And in the white rice, for example, the fat that you're getting is this healthy fat that people talk about. So you're getting all of your omega fats, so fats that the body uses, that it uses in its nerves. So this is the types of fats that we're talking about, is your fats, healthy fats, is what the body uses, for example, in building nerves in your body or in your brain. So the fat is used as a material that covers the nerve and therefore insulates the messaging that's being sent along your nerves. Just like you might see in real life, where a cable is covered in a non-conductive material to allow signals to pass along, and you're also getting fat through this diet that, yes, you would need to produce hormones in the body. And for example, like cholesterol, for example, the body will make these fats in the amounts that it needs naturally. The body makes a lot of things in order to survive. For example, like it does make cholesterol at the healthy amount in order to make hormones, in the process of making hormones in the body. So there's a regulation in the body of different chemicals and different hormones that naturally does happen. And through the standard American diet, we add excess, for example, cholesterol. We add excess fat on top, which leads to obesity, for example, and type 2 diabetes, which is caused by excess fat, not too little fat. Too little fat isn't causing the epidemic of all of the terrible health consequences we're seeing at the moment. Like too little fat doesn't lead to millions of people having type 2 diabetes. Too little fat isn't causing millions of people to die from heart disease. Okay, so I hope you understand the video and you enjoy the video. So like and subscribe, and that way you can get in touch on the email in the description, and I can make you a personalized meal plan on the high sugar diet. So here's another drink, fruit juice. So this is just orange juice. It could be mango and orange, or apple, or watermelon juice, just for example. And I had about 500 mils of this morning, and again, fat about half a gram or less, sugars 11 grams per. So here's the breakdown. So again, low fat, low protein, high sugar. And I've got some more fruit here, so some dates. So these are great. Again, less than half a gram of fat, 68 grams of carbohydrate, and protein 3.3 grams per 100 grams. So you're still getting some of your protein there. And then some pasta. So this is not a fad diet, is it? Because you're probably eating already some of this yourself. So again, here per 100 grams, fat 0.4, carbohydrate 31.5, and protein 5.8 grams. So yes, there are some processed foods here, and as you can see, in terms of whole foods, you've got whole foods, plant-based, which I don't recommend. I recommend eating like this. So you've got whole foods like fruit, and you've got processed foods like white rice and pasta and white table sugar. And white table sugar does not come from a lab, it comes from grass. Okay, it either comes from grass, which is if you eat meat and you ever go past a field of sheep, for example, they're eating grass, so they're on a high sugar diet because sugar cane is grass. Or you're getting it from sugar beets, which is a vegetable. Okay. Now here is some candy, sugar and candy. So this is probably, when you think about what is the high sugar diet, you're probably being seen, oh, it's like this, it's candy and sugar and that's it. You eat every day, all day for a week or a month or 6 months. Well, no, I don't recommend eating like that. And the reason why you're seeing people recommending like this is because if people want to, let's say, get popular on social media and they want to gain an audience by having some crazy, they can talk about some crazy statistic that they have with maybe their clients that they work with as a weight loss coach, for example, or they just want to gain attention, then yes, if you eat literally white table sugar every day for a week to feel full, you will lose an incredible amount of weight. But yes, you will be deficient in the actual nutrition that you need. So you won't be getting all of the micronutrients and macronutrients that yes, you do need. So these are full of vitamins, all of the vitamins you need, for example, fruit, bananas, and white rice. Yes, you're getting the fat and protein that you need, and the fat and the protein that you need from the fruit. Whereas white table sugar is literally, it's just sugar, glucose and fructose. And yes, you will then start to suffer if you go on literally eating white table sugar and candy. Then yes, you won't get all of the iron that you need and all the vitamins that you need and all the minerals you need. Whereas if you eat the high sugar diet that I'm recommending, which I think is what everyone in the world should be eating, then you won't suffer from what you see. So this is not the high sugar diet, okay? This is just to gain headlines in order to get attention. And yeah, people probably, I presume out there, are literally, weight loss coaches are saying just eat sugar, the sugar fast. Whereas this is what you eat, and you eat as much of it as you want to get all of the nutrients you need. So here's another one, some canned fruit. If you don't have fresh fruit's the best, but canned fruit, yeah. And some more processed food that I recommend, so some white sourdough here. Again, lots of carbohydrates, so 43 grams of carbohydrate there. And last but not least, some cornflakes. So I had some of these cornflakes last night. And again, these are high carbohydrate meal. And they have, you know, they even have added iron, for example, in. So if you're eating a range of these processed vegan foods, so if you were worried about, you know, having iron deficiency, for example, processed vegan foods have the iron in, like this. So this even has what it says on the back. It even has iron. So if you're having this on top, you don't need to worry about having deficiencies, okay? The reason why you hear people say, oh, you'll get deficient on this high sugar diet, it's just to defend the standard way of eating, which is lots of animal products, lots of fat and lots of protein. And most people I see, most people I talk to, they are fat, they're over fat, And they think eating like the bodybuilder diet or the Homer Simpson diet, which is high in protein and high in fat, will cause you to be lean and help you to lose weight. Well, if a bodybuilder is eating a high fat, high protein diet, they're not eating that to lose weight, are they? They're eating that to gain weight. So if you're eating a high fat diet, you're going to have elevated fasting levels of insulin, so you're going to be more anabolic. If you want to be more catabolic, which is what this is, you'll have lower fasting levels of insulin. And I've been using a CGM, continuous glucose monitor, which you can check out my other videos, which shows that I'm not type 2 diabetic from eating a high sugar diet. I'm very insulin sensitive. My insulin sensitivity is high because my glucose levels, they go up when you eat. When you eat, your glucose levels are meant to go up because every cell in the human body is powered by sugar, glucose, to make ATP. So the primary energy system is glycolysis, so glucose-derived ATP. And if you don't get enough, if you don't make ATP, you don't live, okay? And if you don't get enough sugar, you don't live. So I've been making a series on losing weight through the high sugar diet, reversing type 2 diabetes on the high sugar diet, and I have one of these, and yeah, I'm making the sacrifice of it's painful, so I'm sacrificing my comfort to show the truth, the evidence that a high sugar diet gives all of these positive benefits. So like and subscribe and leave a comment about how I'm deficient in fat, even though you've just watched the whole video, okay? So it's not deficient on fat and protein. The standard way of eating is too much fat and too much protein, okay? And quite often not enough sugar. So that's why so many people are on the most abused drug on the planet, which is coffee, because they're constantly chronically fatigued from not having enough sugar, and therefore they replace sugar with caffeine. So people carrying around their cup of coffee because they should be carrying around a cup of sugar water and drinking sugar. But no, you're told sugar causes all of these different diseases in the world. Whereas, as you can see, I have the energy to make these videos, to go out on my adventures, and not need to take caffeine every few seconds in order to survive during the day. I don't have any digestive problems or pains and aches like a gallstone or whatever, or diverticulitis. I don't have chronic fatigue. I'm not anemic. I'm not type 2 diabetic. I'm not type 1 diabetic. I think I would say I'm one of the most healthy people in the world in the West, because so many people, most people, are in some way over fat, have some disease or multiple diseases from the high fat, high protein diet. So being fat, being obese is not the term used for being healthy. It's the term used for being at dis-ease, okay? So this is the diet to be at ease. So be at ease. Yeah, man, I'm at ease. And so that's the high sugar diet. And the standard American diet of the high fat, high protein diet leads to dis-ease. So dis-ease, disease in the body. Okay? So like and subscribe and check out my other videos on the channel where I explain more about what I've talked about, like diabetes, for example, and losing weight, and what meal plans I recommend. And yeah, I've got a wealth of information, and I am leading by example. If you can still see behind the high sugar diet, I'm always lean and feel good every day and have eaten like this for years. I eat unlimited calories, as in I eat to feel full every day on rice, fruit and sugar and pasta and bread and sweets and yeah, feel good. I'm not bloated. I'm not chronically fatigued. And how long do you have to eat? So I've eaten like this for years. How long would I have to eat in order to convince you that I'm not getting too little protein or too little fat? So most of my whole adult life, too little protein? My whole adult life I've eaten like this, the plant-based high sugar or sugars. So for years I've eaten like this. So next time, take a look in the mirror, take a look at your friends, your family, and think, am I getting too much protein and too much fat? Or am I getting too little protein and too much fat? And that should be your answer before you start commenting that I'm getting too little fat. Are you getting too much fat? And what is the highest rate of death caused in your country that you come from? Like, is it heart disease killing the most people in your country from high fat intake? Or is it people dying in the street, in the hospitals from too little fat? Okay, it's always too much fat, too much protein. So thank you for your time, and I hope you now understand what the high sugar diet is. This is it, and you'll regain your health and lose weight and feel good mentally and physically, because this is good for you and it's good for the planet. Okay, so thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao. Get the sugars in.